Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Orlando and Pigeon Forge, where this week we've gotten two new announcements for two new dark rides out of Dollywood and SeaWorld Orlando. Dollywood is getting a new dark ride, a new boat coaster slash dark ride called Night Flight Expedition. And SeaWorld Orlando is getting a new suspended dark ride called Sequest Legends of the Deep. So Dark Ride seems to be someone's selling Dark Rides at IAPA this year, and a lot
Yeah,
of people buying them. So let's start with Dollywood because this is the one we talked about before. So this is using that Mac Rides system that we mentioned, I think, on the Dollywood show, right?
we did mention it, but my bad. I mentioned it and said that sounds like a horrible idea because who wants to get wet in December? And
In
we kind of
fairness,
moved on to what we're going to probably be talking about later. But what they're actually getting is the mock rocking boat, which we said last week was going to Busch Gardens, Tampa.
yeah,
So,
which it still could be, or
which
maybe they're getting. It just so happens Intamin showed off a whole bunch of new of water rides this week too. So all of a sudden, people want water rides and dark rides. So uh, color me silly. But yeah, so they're getting Expedition Night Flight. They say this. If you read any of the press releases, they've said that this is going to cost more than the first Dreammore Resort. I don't know if that's just tariffs, but
it,
um,
it's a
but
big
down there in
building.
Dollywood, they would never admit that that's just tariff money going there. So, but they say it's going to cost more than a resort. Like I'm okay, maybe, but supposedly it's going to be highly themed, going to be this indoor rocking boat. And we don't have a ton of information here on this at all because they didn't really show off a whole lot.
Yeah, they showed off some I mean, there's the sizzle reel, but the only pictures of the ride itself are just still artist renderings, and I'm guessing that's because of limitations of the fact that they don't have good renderings of this new product yet. They do
Hmm.
have some stats. The track length is going to be 1,255 feet. The duration of the ride is going to be 5.5 minutes, which they do explain that that includes loading and unloading. 10 passengers per car, maximum speed of 29 miles per hour. It's 3 stories high at its highest track elevation, and 39-inch kids will be allowed to ride the ride. So those are all the important numbers that go along with it.
And like that, like we don't really have because like we've seen some of these in Europe already, so you can find POVs of them in different places that has ride systems like this, and none of them go super fast. I don't know if they have launches on them at all. I guess you
Yeah.
could add a launch if you really wanted to. Anything could be launched at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so like, but having that high of a building, at some point you would think there'd be some sort of drop. Um, I almost feel like this is like a modern day Blazing Fury a little bit, where you're going to have like really slow dark ride portions, some open water things where you're going to be floating around, hopefully in a fast way, like a rapids type area. And then you probably have like a few drops here or there, if not.
Yeah. So it does say that you're going to feel like you're flying, and I believe that there's screens involved in that part because it's like a coaster into a boat with that hinge. I'm assuming the drop is going to basically be a crash into the water. So all that speed is going to disappear immediately.
Yeah.
Uh, but the water, I mean, the concept of the boat does look pretty cool. Like, it's basically moved along with the flow of the water, so you can have the water jets pushing it forwards and backwards along the same track, and you can do really tight turns and things that you wouldn't expect a boat to be able to do. So hopefully I'm not going to say exciting, but at least interesting.
Well, and plus Dollywood's trying to reach that market of those family groups that it's kind of like trying to recreate what Disney did, but do it on maybe, and I hate to say smaller scale because it's not really a smaller scale. It's just a different scale.
Mhm.
And they're trying to I think capture that same market with adding some bigger coasters in every now and then. Like my kids loved Big Bear Mountain. They thought it was amazing, and that's only a 39-inch ride, so they packed a lot
Yep.
into that. for that height requirement. So the 39 inches doesn't really scare me away, because I know from other rides in the park that you can do, like I thought Big Bear Mountain was a really good roller coaster, like not in my top 30 or whatever, but it
No.
was a really good ride.
Yeah, we all liked it too. We rode it a couple times. We
Yeah.
liked it to go back. Yeah.
I'm like, it's a solid roller coaster. Might be one of the better ones in the park, actually, if Lightning Rod's not open.
It's got
Um,
the best launch in the park.
Maybe. Well, now it is, right? Um, so the 39 inch does, I think that's a perfect size for a family park. I do question whether or not a ride like this would be family orientated. Like the minute you start putting drops on rides, I think sets you apart from having grandma ride at some point. Because I remember we went to King's Dominion and we put my mother-in-law on the Great Pumpkin Coaster, and she was like, "I couldn't believe how fast that thing was going." And I kind of like looked at her. I'm like, "Well, if you think that one's fast." So like sometimes those high thrill things, like yes, a family in perspective, like a young family, even like me and my kids, but like my mom and dad aren't going to be writing that kind of stuff. I don't think it's too thrilling for them.
Yeah.
At least for my mom anyway. So like you run that risk of, okay, is it too thrilling? Is it not thrilling enough? But generally speaking, I think like that's the perfect size and that's the perfect height for a family park like Dollywood. And there's, like you said, there's not a whole lot to go off of, so we're just merely speculating. Hopefully, as we get closer, we get like a ride point of view or something, unless they're going to keep it a mystery until it opens, which would not surprise me either.
I kind of almost think it would be better if they keep it a secret until it opens. I think they'll really will lean into like the exciting, exploring kind of
Mhm.
nature and not the thrilling nature. Because if they try to market it as thrilling and they have a low bar for height, kids might be afraid of going and riding something that they haven't seen, and
Mhm.
so will parents. But if they say it's like a fun adventure for everybody, then people won't even register that there's a drop. Maybe that'll be a surprise for them.
And like Pirates of the Caribbean has a drop, and
Yeah.
Jurassic Park has a drop, and like rides have drops, and people go on them. So I don't think if you have, I think one big drop is sufficient to get the job done. So then let's move on to any other final thoughts on the Dollywood thing. And
No, I think we'll wait and see.
I feel like the mystery thing, didn't they keep Mystery Mine a secret too? Like nobody knew what was going on in that ride until you got on it.
I don't remember that far back.
I remember Brian Bass maybe saying that at some point, or Devin Olson saying that they kept Mystery Mine a complete secret, and people were like, I don't know what's happening in here, and they was just like, it is what it is. So anyway, so let's move on to SeaWorld. SeaWorld is going with Vekoma, an
Probably.
interesting choice.
Mhm.
Probably, right? That's I think
Yeah.
I saw Vekoma somewhere. So, and I've seen videos on the Vekoma website saying that, showing off a suspended dark ride that's using a single rail. So
Yeah.
is it our first inverted single rail?
Well, it's our first one from Vekoma. I
Yeah.
mean, I have been on you know, haunted houses and stuff like that that are inverted like that, but
Mm.
not high tech like the Vekoma one. This looks like a really cool ride system, and this is actually what I was predicting the Dollywood ride would be.
Yeah.
So we will get to see this thing in action, but it'll be under the sea instead of exploring the mountains.
Yeah, so it looks like it's going over by Wild Arctic and using that parking lot right next to the toll booth when you enter. That kind of like when you make that turn in, there's a whole parking lot on the side over there that's rarely used. And if it is used, it's not a good day to be in the park. You should just go somewhere else that day, probably. Um, so, but we were looking at the map from Google at the propose of how big this parking lot is, and they're saying this thing's going to be huge, right? How many acres did they said?
The construction permit's for 3.5 acres.
So we're talking about a fairly sizable area, and it lends me to start thinking that is just the first phase in maybe building a new midway or something. Because and I'm not saying that SeaWorld needs another offshoot, because if there's any park in the world that's more confusing to navigate than SeaWorld, it might be Great Adventure. And outside of those two, I don't know what else you could possibly add to that list. But SeaWorld is an absolute maze to get through. I don't know how more people don't get lost in that park, because I sometimes get lost in that park.
Yeah, we had a hard time there actually, and we even had locals helping us. We had
it's
our own Florida man guiding us around.
it's just there's so many cut throughs. There's dead ends here. There's offshoots here. There's secondary routes around. There's cut throughs in the lagoon. There's just so much going on there. So if they put this over by Wild Arctic and Pipeline, like in between Wild Arctic and Pipeline, it's big enough, I think, to make another whole offshoot of the park. Do they need that? I don't know. If they have big plans to keep expanding in the ride section, or is this ride just going to be that big?
I don't know. I mean, it, if you're heading towards Pipeline and you want to go on Icebreaker, you're just like out in the middle of nowhere if you want to walk back to everything else. So putting something else back there is probably going to be beneficial, giving people something more to do. But 3.5 acres for like one building and a queue sounds like a lot. I do think that it's going to be maybe redeveloping some other areas and adding room for the future, perhaps.
Well, and also there's a lot of people saying that they need dedicated haunt buildings because they're just kind of like repurposing stuff at this point. And if you really want a serious haunt, especially when you're competing against horror nights,
Yeah.
like you kind of need serious buildings to just to have there all the time, because like Busch Gardens in Tampa, I thought had really well themed haunts, not up to the Horror Nights quality, but well above what you would find at Six Flags or Cedar Fair at the time, and just had really fantastic haunts with just scenery and gimmicks and things that were going on. So if I've never been to Orlando's haunt, but I'm going this year for the first time, so I'm hoping that from what I've read is that they really need dedicated haunt buildings. So maybe you could add those here as well. Maybe repurpose some of the stuff that's already there into better haunt buildings by creating a new midway. But let's talk about the ride itself a little bit. Sequest,
Sure.
the Legends of the Deep. Sequest, I don't know if they're going to be having talking dolphins in here, and I'm probably the only one who gets that reference. If you guys used to watch Sequest TSV 93, no, with Roy Schneider. It's kind of like Star Trek but underwater. Nothing. Okay. Anyway, so they're gonna these things. So we looked at the Vekoma website. They're highly customizable. The cars. You can add onboard lighting, onboard audio. You could add interactivity if you wanted with guns. Don't think that's going to happen here. But
No.
Vekoma is really making these vehicles to be a catch-all with anything you want it to be. If you want it to be a shooting dark ride, if you just want it to be a dark ride that you see different scenery. From the video that I watched, that it goes through multiple scenes. It is not screen based. There's only one scenario. So they do like an underwater theme in the video. They do like a hot air balloon theme. They do an outer space theme, and that's the only one that had visible screens in there to me. I don't know what Orlando's going to do, keeping in mind they used to have the trackless dark ride Empire of the Penguin that used a lot of screens, and that went over like a lead brick. So I don't know if they want to go back to that.
I don't know. These do look they look like they've got really cool motion and they look like um they are something that you could have a lot of fun with if you're a creative person. And I also think that there's going to be screens. I mean, I feel like the
Well,
most
yeah,
of these things just like they just lend themselves to, you know, either swinging you past a screen or parking you in front of it. And these things can tilt forward and back and side to side. They can spin 360. It's a really neat ride vehicle.
and I just read, it says the last paragraph, from an immersive feel and advanced special effects to a spectacular finale launch that celebrates the ocean's resilience. So there's going to be a launch on this bad boy too.
Yeah.
That's going to be crazy. A launch on a dark ride. Book it here today. So there you go. Yeah, you're not going to get away from the screens. I get that, but it's how do you build the environments around the screens? And I always go back to Navi River, and I think Navi River is one of those perfect examples of how to build an immersive environment, but also use screens to make it feel deeper, make it feel more immersive than just having, a flat screen and here we're just going to drive through this room with screens on it. Um, there's ways to do it. There's cheap ways to do it. There's expensive ways to do it. And hopefully Orlando is gonna, because I always thought the Empire of the Penguin was pretty well themed. Like you were in this ice cavern. It wasn't terrible. They had cool little ice chandeliers that would do LED stuff. They had big screens though, and I think that's where it went wrong. So I think having smaller screens that are built into an environment, but then how much money are you going to spend on this if you're making it really, really big too? Is the other problem.
I don't know. I mean, it is a cool idea, and just as a practical standpoint, it's another thing that you can do that's inside. For a park, they actually don't have a lot of that. I know they just opened like a different dark ride this year, but that seems like it has the potential. This one seems like it has the potential to maybe be a bit more exciting than for everybody. Like whereas like you look at Soarin' and you're like, that's for everybody. My grandma can ride Soarin', little kids can ride Soarin'. And that's kind of like what their ride is right now. But this one, maybe it spins around, maybe it gives you some cool motions. It's going to have a launch. There might be some really cool aspects to it. Get some good sensations going.
Yeah, because everything in the Vekoma video looked really, really slow. So like I don't feel like it's going to be like a fast roller coaster besides the launch. Maybe the launch takes you out somewhere and then you come back. I don't know. Who knows? But this one's kind of exciting, and it all depends on how well they theme it, how well they put how much money they put into this. Like I feel that Dollywood's is going to be really well themed based on the money that they're investing in this, based on Dollywood's track history. I'm a little bit skeptical of SeaWorld because they've been doing really good with the coasters lately. But the theming has been a little light, to be honest. Like Penguin Trek, a little light on the theming. Like spray paint on the walls and stuff, which is cool. Like I'm not saying like it's not like it fits with what they're trying to do. But like yeah, I'm expecting a little bit more because then if there's not a little bit more, then I'd be questioning why did you get rid of Empire of the Penguin if you're just going to build a new Empire of the Penguin? So, yeah. So we'll see. I have high hopes though, Jeff. I do.
All right.
Any final thoughts here?
No, I'm just going to hold my breath because it's underwater.
And so, as always, I'm Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jeff Goodman on Long Island, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.